In my last video, I reviewed the Ultimate Collector Series AT-AT Walker and discussed whether I think it is worth $850. I also said that if the video got enough traction, I will make a video on how to modify this walker. So here I am, sticking to my word. I'm a little surprised that it got a little more views than I thought, but it seems like you guys really like these reviews that I make on my channel. So anyways, I made a lot of nitpicky critiques on my last one, but I only made those critiques on certain details if I think there is a better alternative solution that is possible to do. So nonetheless, my toxic trait tells me that I can make it look better, so here are the modifications I did on the walker. There are some easy fixes that you can replace with pieces you probably have around your house or just laying around in your collection, and there are some other pieces that may require some purchasing. I will put down the Bricklink parts list in the description below. I looked a lot harder in spots of the model than I wanted to. I was looking at references from the movies, dioramas, 3D models, video games. Well, I guess that ties into the 3D models, but anyways, like most Star Wars vehicles, designs have changed over the years, so some areas are subjective, but I tried to gather all the consistent aspects of the literal walking tank. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is kind of a joke, the first one, but you know, I feel the need to address this in case someone in the comments actually mentions that there is a solution for this. But if I had the choice to, I would have actually modified the Plaque and just changed that small little detail of 60 kilometers per hour as its top speed. I think that is ridiculous, and there is actually a video discussing what the actual speed of the walker is, which is probably around half of what is given, which is 30 kilometers per hour. That seems a little more reasonable. So if anyone has an idea on how to reprint it and put it back on the plat and just you know, change that small modification, that would be cool. But you know, at the same time, that's just kind of for a giggle. The next one would be Luke Skywalker's minifigure. I kind of addressed this in my last video already, but in the movie he is wearing white or gray gloves, I guess you could say. So the easy fix is just replacing those hands with white or, you know, gray looking hands, kind of like what the snowtroopers have. You know, this is a fairly easy solution. You could either go to your nearest Lego store and go to the build a minifigure section and kind of just get a couple of those and trade those hands off. Either that, or you can buy a snowtrooper battle pack, take the gloves off a snowtrooper if you really don't have a care in the world, and then just replace that with Luke Skywalker's. Either works. Alright, let's actually get on to the set now. So the first thing you're going to do is remove the side panel of the walker, and the first thing you're going to go for is by replacing all the chamfer 2x1 tiles. You could technically keep them on. Lego isn't entirely wrong for having those pieces on, but I have noticed in some other models that it kind of has a slope to that specific part. So I will be replacing these with the 2x1 vent slope, however you want to call it. Now, this is the part where it kind of becomes subjective because I have seen this as light gray. I've seen this in a darker gray. I'm assuming the other photos show darker gray because, you know, it reflects more on the shadows, or it just kind of looks a little more weathered. So this is up to you. This is what it looks like when it's light gray with the 2x1 vent pieces. If you want to add a little more contrast to your walker, or maybe make it work quote-unquote weathered, this is what it looks like if you were to place it with the darker gray pieces. Either works. Now, because these are event pieces, you do see some of the 2x1 tan pieces under it. It's an easy fix. If you just want to replace it with a light gray 2x1 piece, you can do that. There's like 4 of them on the panel to replace with, but you'll need more of those because later on down the road, you'll see some of the exposed tan pieces on the sides of the panel if you looked at a certain angle. So we are going to replace those And if you're really nitpicky, then you can also replace the brown L-shaped pieces with the light gray ones as well. Congrats, you are now done with the panel, but before you put it back on, let's go down a little further. Right there, we're going to fix this part. Go ahead and remove this part from the body however you may please. This next part is kind of subjective. I've seen different photos and animations on what role this piece is. It's kind of tangent to the leg, and I can't tell if it's like attached to the leg, but I've also seen animations where it like slides up and down to be part of that friction. So anyways, without getting too logistical, what you can do is replace this 1x4 tile with a 1x3, and then at the end of the stud, you're going to put in a cheese slope and then mirror it on both sides. And instead of putting it back in that annoying 2x2 gray tile, whatever you want to call it, I decided to replace this with a 2x2 turntable. Like I said, this piece is kind of tangent to the leg and kind of parallel, a little bit of both. I think this was the designer's intention, where you can turn it and angle it to make it like that. You can even see this piece change in the photos as well. So it only makes sense to make this a little more articulate. So replacing this with a turntable would do the trick. It doesn't fall off as easily now. The only downfall to this is that it wiggles around a little more. It does kind of have a hard time staying in place, but considering that this is mainly going to be used for display, it still does its job in, you know, staying in the place that you want it to. It just wiggles around more, so just keep that in mind. Now you could attach this to the lower frame of your walker. It is a little bit fragile on that part, so just try and keeping all the pieces together if you can, and then just try and pinch the pieces in to keep it intact. Next up is we're going to take off the upper leg of the body. This is just very awkward because you see no stud showing on this upper joint, and then you see stud showing on the knee joint. Not to mention there's no depth to make it look like it's a spinning axle. So anyways, let's get into it. The first thing you're going to do is remove that big circular tile. Then you're going to put in 4x4 macaronis around the circular part of the piece. There's a lot of different approaches that I had for this. So one of them is if you put a 2x2 with an open stud in the middle, and then that 2x6 tile that originally was on that circular piece, you can replace on that. And then hey, you kind of have a spinning axle. You can move it around like in the movies. If you don't like that, or if you want something a little more detailed, then stick around for the other options. Go ahead and put your 2x4 stud in the middle. Same progress as the other one, except you're going to put 2x2 tiles adjacent to it. And then you're going to put either a 2x1 tile or the 2x1 chamfer tile that we removed earlier on the panels. And if you even want to get fancier than that, then you could replace one of the 2x2 tiles with a 2x2 with an open stud in the middle, and then we're put a 2x1 vent gray piece on top of it to give that extra detail. The 2x1 in the center does spin around as well, just like in the movies. So I've seen it vertically, I've seen it horizontally, either works. Just make sure if you go for the third solution that you mirror them. Last thing to do on the leg set is completely free. This is just a personal preference, but I removed the circular studs that were on the joints. Mainly because some of the references that I've seen, although some of them do look like they're covered, there is like a little poke in the hole in the middle of the joint. So I think that represents perfectly the 2x2 piece with the open stud in the middle. Speaking of inconsistent studs showing and not showing through this walker, let's finally go to the cockpit. So if you look at the cockpit, it doesn't look like there is an accent on where the turrets are coming from. And then if you look at the underside, one is clear and the rest of the side isn't. So we're going to fix that. Go ahead and remove the inverted 2x2 bricks. There should be 3 of them. And then you're going to replace it with a 2x6 stud with a 2x1 tile connected to the end of it. put it back under the lip of the cockpit, and then you are going to put 1x1 tiles attached each side of the cockpit. You can tell now it gives you a more finished look. So there you have it, everyone. That is all the modifications for the Ultimate Collector's AT-AT Walker. Let me know in the comments what you think, if there is something I could have done better in the modifications, or if you would have suggested something else, or if there's something I'm missing, or something that you would have done in particular. I might motorize this AT-AT if that's one of the modifications you're thinking about. I'm not so sure. I'm going to have to do lots of testing before I even get to that point. Anyways, as I'm wrapping up this now 11-minute video, my apologies, I did not think it was going to be this long. I'm thinking about doing a live stream on YouTube for building my Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, so let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in seeing that as well. Otherwise, without further ado, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you've watched for this long, I will catch you guys in the next one.